But basically, all this to say that the line is blurred because of how much entertainment content. I hate that word. I despise the word content. I don't really know why. It just makes me viscerally want. It makes me part of me want to throw up in my mouth every time I hear it.
Right.
I don't really know why, but
So you should know, viewers, and this is not content. This is an elegant production.
this is a conversation. That we consume so much content that's purely for our entertainment, which is all that the United States has been good at in the last 70 years. The only thing it's produced for the rest of the world is entertainment and death. But bread and circuses, they will give him death, and he will give them death, and they will love him for it. Anyway, we have consumed so much content and so little reality. Because the way to actually understand what is real or when something is real is to actually go and experience it, or to at least spend enough time in reality that when you see reality, you actually know what it is. You actually know it for what it is. And what I was saying earlier about, you've got the TV show, you watch TV for 3 hours, you watch 3 episodes of 3 different TV shows, and then you immediately go to the news. Well, the news doesn't really seem all that real because your brain is conditioned for fiction. Your brain is conditioned for the story, the narrative, which I think has a lot to do for why people are so susceptible to just media narratives in general, because it just sounds like a good story to them, particularly if it can make them the main character. But we have that on such a grander scale with those little black boxes that we keep in our pocket.
Yeah.
Like, we are Tolkienists. Tolkien hated. I don't think he even cared much for typewriters. Like, he despised machines and modern technology and just the horrid black smoke. I feel like if we were to go back and tell him about smartphones, he may just drop dead right there from rage. Particularly when you get to the part about the YouTube Shorts feed or TikTok or Instagram Reels or whatever it's called, because you're just like, you just do this constantly. You're just scrolling one thing after another. Your brain is bouncing back and forth from this to that to this to that to something that was real to something that wasn't real. So you may go, I feel like the majority of people, most of that is movie scenes. You go from like your favorite movie scenes fed to you one after another by an algorithm, and then to a news story. You don't even have that 45-second ad break that you had on the regular television. It's less than a second that your brain is now having to switch between, fiction, news. And that sort of is going to segue us into sort of the plight and the error of every piece of entertainment, every piece of news, for the majority of people these days, is coming from a phone. It's coming from the exact same device. Your entertainment and your news comes from the same device. That did not used to be the case. For the longest time, you'd get your newspaper in the mail, or you'd have to go to the corner to the boy screaming at the top of his lungs, extra, extra, and buy a newspaper for him for a nickel. And that's how you got your news. Now, newspapers started putting in like the funnies. There used to be like political cartoons in them. That sort of thing is not new. So, and the press, the actual printed press, learned really quickly and was the first to learn that the more interesting you can make something, the more salacious you can make it sound in your front page headline is what will sell your newspaper more. But I'm talking about in principle here, because it was still by and large actually the news for the longest time. And the news actually done as the news is the paper shows up at your doorstep, and it just tells you everything that happened in town last week. The best newspaper in the world are the newspapers from just small southern towns that only ever talk that, every article is written by the same guy. It only ever talks about the events that happened in town that week. Like the front page article is about Gladys finally getting her bunions taken care of. Because that is stuff that, like, it's just events that happened, and it's reality, and it's, it's stuff that happened in town. And you can see Joe Bob in the grocery store and say, hey, you hear Gladys got her bunions taken care of? Oh, I'm glad she got those things taken care of. She was finally able to save up the money, get them taken care of. I'm sure her feet feel so much better now, getting those bunions taken care of. You're still experiencing reality.
Yeah.
So we used to get news from the newspaper. Entertainment, before the dawn of television, entertainment was a place you had to go to. Now, you had to go to a bookstore and buy a book to read a novel, or you had to go to the theater and pay the cost of a ticket to sit there for like 2 hours, and then they would kick you out if you stayed too long after the production was over, because there's other people that want to see the next show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not just going to sit there and keep paying money. It was theater etiquette that was enforced frequently, that no, you get up and you leave because other people want to come in and see the show too. It's not all about you. So the bouncer's going to throw you out. I don't care how much money you got.
Mm-hmm.
Entertainment people did entertainment. News people did news. Then when the television starts coming in, this is a thing with radio too. So radio and television come about, and really even before the newspaper, the way you actually just got news and the way that you should be still getting news, the best news that you can get is the stuff that's given to you from firsthand experience.
Yep.
You used to not know what happened outside of your town until a stranger showed up. Like you used to not know. You used to not know who got elected president until somebody from back east came into town and you said, hey, who's the president now? Do we got the same one or did we get a new one? It's...
And honestly, for that style of living, it just seems healthy. What you're describing.
Yeah, because people treated the news of thing that was happening half a country away as something that was happening half a country away.
Yeah. Why does it have little import on my life? Oh, because it actually does have little import on my life.
But then the newspapers come around and they decide, oh, there's some more newspapers. We're going to make it sound more interesting. We're going to put spins on it. And then radio gets invented. And then there's one of the first places where actively we get both entertainment and reality. But radio, there is an advantage because it is only audio. It's not visual. So it may engage the imagination in some ways, but, you sit by the radio to listen to a radio show with your family. Your wife is there, your kids are there. Everything is just coming out of that little box on the mantle.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's just coming out of that radio. You still actually have that disconnect and that separation. Enter television, where now we have a visual to go along with the audio, and we're able just to sit there and stare at it and watch it for hours at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's two senses that it's taking control of. You have 5. 2 of them, the ones that television and our technology operate off of primarily, are the same ones you use primarily in conversation. The 2 most primary senses that you have for experiencing reality. Everybody pities the blind man and the deaf man. Not that many people pity the man who has no sense of smell, no sense of taste, and can't feel anything.
True.
Not being able to feel things, having completely dead nerves, is tragic. But you can still see and hear.
But your point, though, is
It's
the
that
senses have been
the television hijacks those.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, first you see something, then you hear it, as opposed to an order of use of the senses, sight and then hearing. So television is able to dominate both sight and hearing to so much of an extent that people can just get sucked into it for hours at a time. That's why you would go and get sucked into a play for hours at a time. But even with a stage play, it's happening on stage in front of you. So it's a more real kind of immersion, because there's still a physical connection between you and the actors on the stage.
It also is distinctly fiction, which is different from the blending that you're talking about with putting spins on articles. And
I'm getting there. Don't worry, I'll get there at some point. I'll get there. I'll try to get there sooner rather than later.
Fair enough.
But my point is, so there's still that physical connection when you go and see a stage play, but just the way that it's done, there's also a limit, because you have actors that can only work and perform so much. So you got 2 shows a night. You go and see the show once. All right, that's the show that was playing this week or this month. I'll go back next month and see what's playing. It's the frequency with which people consumed fiction, particularly audiovisual fiction. So like books are purely visual. Radio is purely audio. And then it has to, the books and the radio have to do those things so well that it excites the imagination. Television does both of those things, and it doesn't really have to excite your imagination, because it can just show you on screen. And it kind of does what the stage play does, but in your living room. And in sort of a more sinister way, because of, how television is, and being light hypnosis and all of that we've already talked about. So when you take that, in which it's just one thing after another, frequency of television programs starts coming up. They start just pushing more and more of these things out, more and more kinds of entertainment, faster, faster, faster. When you take the issue that radio had of being the source of both entertainment and fact and news, and then you add in the use of your other primary sense for participation in reality, it becomes way more pervasive. But even at the beginning of television, it was still black and white. Well, unless you're colorblind, you don't see things in black and white. So even with the visuals, there can still be a disconnect of things that are and are not real. Then color television comes in. Then we go from film to digital, and then the quality just keeps getting better and better and better and better and better, to the point where now what's on television looks better than what you can actually see with your eyes. Somehow. I hate 4K. Anyway, then we take that and we put it on a little black box that we keep in our pocket that is now the sole source of almost the sole source of every form of entertainment and every form of news media that we consume, and it all gets thrown into our brains at one time.
Which has what effect?
The one that we're talking about as one of them, that it blurs the line. You don't know what's real and what's not anymore. And if you're watching this going, well, yeah, I don't know what's real and what's not. We may be a new channel and we need the views. I don't necessarily care that much about the statistics. Put the phone down, shut the computer off, go outside. That's what's real. Go talk to your family. That's what's real. Go to church. That's more real than even reality. Go to a Catholic mass. Go experience the Blessed Sacrament. And don't touch another device ever again. Which I say starting a podcast where I require people to, or people have to touch their devices.
Yeah, that is it, isn't it, though? Even if all the news you were consuming is spot on accurate and portraying its characters properly and with the grace and respect that they deserve, good luck finding that. Even if the entertainment that's also on that phone is wholesome and good and enjoyable, even if all of the other functions that you're using it for and even if all the other functions you're using it for are good things, in a sense, it is not as real as those other things you just said.
Because nothing actually does beat the natural human connection.